Well, good morning, everybody. I hope we're having a great day. I'm trying to get my stuff back in here. My OBS crashed again this week, and when it crashes, it deletes everything. And yeah, that's a problem, because then I have to set everything back up from scratch. And it logs me out of everything because I set everything else from scratch. And I just realized it didn't have me logged into the chat, because I didn't need chat on the other day when I recorded my weekly vlog. So it is what it is. I am now set up, although I want to see if I can just adjust me just a little bit. Giving camera, still having issues, but whatever, it's still there. Hi, how are we? It's a lovely Saturday. It's only 42 degrees, which is, nice for some people, cold for others. It's life. I had Saturday Sampler this morning. Got to meet up with an old friend. Well, okay, not exactly a friend. She was one of our consultants, and then she retired. I think it was over the summer she retired. And we found out that I found out she quilts, then she learned that I quilt and everything. So we decided to start the Saturday Sampler program together, and we got to hang out with each other today. So, yeah, that was already just this morning. Who do we have in the chat? We have my friend Steven of the Idiot Quilter, who says he is number one. And just remember, Steven, you have to be odd to be number one. So, yeah. Our friend Julie is in here. Hi, Julie. Duvraka says, good morning, Russ and everyone. Colleen says, good morning, bestie. Hi, bestie. I get to see you in a couple weeks. Steven says that it is negative 31 Celsius there. And I'm not even going to attempt to do the math. I'm just going to say that's flipping cold. Yeah, it should be illegal to be that cold is really what I'm trying to say. Good morning, Crocus Photographer, who says good morning, Russ, Steven, and all watching. Good morning, Susan Blake. How you doing? So I'm going a lot different today. Work was crazy this week, so I didn't get a chance to come in here and prep anything that I had already been working on. And I'm talking about Arctic Elegance specifically, as I stare at the half-done, flying geese. And I said, let me just do some quick chopping and work on what I'm hoping to be my East Cobb Quilt Show submission, because that's due in like a month and change, which means I have to get it done and like sewn and quilted and everything. I have it designed, and I got some of the pieces cut until I was laying it out today and said, this is a rectangle, not a square. I cut wrong. I don't know which dimension I cut wrong. I'm imagining I cut the strip wrong, not the cross cuts to make the squares, based on how many that are wrong. But, that's life. That's future. I have enough fabric. I'm just going to end up throwing those out that are the wrong cut size. Or I can do something else with them. I haven't decided. They're small cuts, so it's not like I can do a lot with these. They are not our standard, what we like to do, 2.5 cuts to make things up. So it's going to be a little crazy. But this is a black and white quilt that I am working on. And I'm not showing the final output until the quilt show, because I don't want anybody to be getting any ideas. You might get ideas as to what it might be as you see me sewing it. Who knows? If you do, great. Keep it quiet. It's going to be a fun one. And it's 625 pieces for the center because it's 25 by 25. So, yeah. And then I've got a top and a bottom that I want to add on to it as well. So it's going to be a good sized wall hanging quilt. In the end, I'm going to be putting it back here somewhere probably, just so that people can admire it for a while, because I think it's going to make people smile. Good morning, Ingrid. How are you? I get to see you in a couple weeks too. Good morning, Jackie, who says it's 58 in Chandler, Arizona. That's a pretty good temperature. Good morning, Cynthia, who says everybody's freezing in Long Island. I'm sorry. Good morning, Jen. Yes, Cynthia is reminding folks, don't forget to sign up for the Sew Day tomorrow. There's no signing up. Although if you do hop onto my mailing list, you should get the reminder. Although that's coming out probably now, so it might be too late. There is a link in the description box of this video and of my live on, not live, my vlog from Thursday. So if you want to join us, it's a free Zoom and always lots of fun. And I'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. Let me swap over to the sewing cam view because everybody likes to see the sewing cam. And I'm going to start grabbing my pieces. So it's got some black pieces and some white pieces. I am using grunge for my fabrics. The light one is grunge paper white paper. I always get that confused. And the black is onyx. Good morning, David, who says hola from Nola. Good morning, Candace, who says hi, Tuss. Who's Tuss? I don't know who Tuss is. Are you cheating on me with somebody going out shopping with Tuss? Candace was trying to get me to go shopping today, and I seriously pondered it. And I was all ready, and then I was like, I forgot that I have dinner plans tonight, and I need to get some stuff done because I also have sewing shenanigans tomorrow. So I was like, I'd love to, but no. And it allows me to save another couple dollars before QuiltCon. Because she wanted to go because there's a few sales happening this weekend around the area. And as I'm pulling all these pieces off of the design board, I'm realizing that normally what I do is I lay out my blocks and then put them in one giant pile. And I just start pulling off the pile. But I didn't have time to do that. So this is feeling a little weird for me doing live and pulling fabrics from my design board instead of the giant pile of fabrics that I would have normally laid out. And as I realized what I did, I was like, I wonder if I have a few seconds just to pull the fabrics off. And I was like, no, I'm not going to worry about that because knowing my luck, something will fall. And at least this way, I know I have everything in the correct order. Because when you're doing a black and white quilt, order usually matters. It was one of those crazy weeks at work this week. And it just didn't help that, people are using the same word to mean 4 different things. Because depending on which group you talk to, the same word means different things. I'm like, dudes, do you not understand? It's easier if you have common terminology and use the right ones. The good thing about, a black and white quilt is there's no directional fabric. And I say it that way because, what was that project? Secret Garden Sampler that I worked on last weekend. It's going to be gorgeous. Has black and white, or has directional fabric in it, and it just drove me crazy trying to make sure I did everything correct. I did get all those blocks done, so I'm excited. But yeah, it was a big pain in the neck. And because this is my pattern, I have to identify all of the pressing directions, which I did. And I'm going to finger press this first set of rows. And as long as, I started the first row correctly, every subsequent row should be fine. In this quilt, this is going to be one of 6 blocks for the center. And then it's going to have a couple borders, and 2 of the borders are going to have blocks in it. Which means Russ needs to get on the ball to get these done, because otherwise it's going to be what is going to be 2028 before this quilt gets put into the show. And I don't know if I could hide this quilt for 2 years. Jen says she's been thinking of a gray and red quilt. That sounds like that's a lot of fun. I'm sorry, I just brain farted because I just realized my pressing instructions are only half right, potentially. Because I haven't decided if I'm going to twist every seam. If I twist the seams, then my pressing instructions are a little different than what I have drawn here. I've got a few minutes to think about that. Jen continues that it's probably a drunkard's path that she's going to do with red and grays. That sounds even more fun. And Susan goes, yeah, that would be nice. I think the big thing with grays is there's such a wide range of shades of gray. There's more than 50. I know people think that there's only 50 for some reason. That it gets to be difficult sometimes to make sure that the shade of gray that you're going to work with is perfect for the project you're working with. Which is why when I do gray, I usually do gray paper. Because that way I'm like, it's a simple answer for that. But thankfully, with me just thinking about my pressing, and since I'm only working on the first block, I can change all of my other notes to adjust for my pressing directions. Although these are really tiny pieces, so it's going to be a little bit of a challenge no matter if I press in one direction the rows or if I press them or if I twist them. It's going to be a bit of a challenge either way. Candace goes, LOL, 50 Shades. Hey, we did the Kona 365. Although I think the grays, we only got a packet of 40 shades. And then there were repeated in our packets that we got, so... Okay, I've decided I'm going to attempt to do the twist. Come on, baby. Let's do the twist. And that's all you're getting, so I don't get copyright stricken. Nope, that still didn't line up. It also probably would have helped if I had, properly pressed these fabrics beforehand. But again, I didn't start cutting until 12:15 or 10:15. Yeah, 10:15 for me to go live at 11. So there might be a little bit of wonkiness in this. I think it'll still work. Wait. No, that's going this way. So this is going this way. I don't know why I'm not looking at both my pieces when I'm finger pressing. Okay. Steven says that it's really cold for his area. Unusual that it's as cold as it is north of him. And there have been many times where my family chat, we will start comparing temperatures across us. And there's days that it's like, why am I colder than you up in Massachusetts? That's not fair. Unless it's, the summertime when they end up being hotter than me. And I'm like, haha. I also got a new toy yesterday. But that was after I had to play Porch Pirate. I was at work and I got a notification that my new toy was delivered. And I was like, I didn't get a notice from my camera that it saw somebody. So I come downstairs and it's not there on my front porch. And I'm like, that's strange. So I peek my head out the garage. It's not there either. And I'm like, that's strange. So I pull up my footage at 12:16 when they said it was delivered and nothing. And I'm like, what do you mean? So finally, I pulled up the UPS. First I pulled up the UPS tracking and it didn't tell me anything. But then I looked at the email that they sent saying it was delivered, and it had a picture of the delivery. And I'm like, whose house did it get delivered to? So I posted in the neighborhood Facebook group. I said, I hope this is somebody in the neighborhood. Can people check? And at the same time, that after I posted that, I did some sleuthing on Google Maps. I said, I wonder if it's my same house number, but one of the different roads, because we get all kinds of missed deliveries all the time. Although I think the worst one was when somebody got delivered to my house and it wasn't even the same number. But either way, I posted it, and then I'm looking at Google Maps. I'm like, that looks like the house, and I can't find my neighborhood directory. So I sent a text message to the HOA president saying, who lives at this house? Do you have a number and everything? And she sent me a picture from the directory and goes, yeah, Alan and Patty don't live there anymore because they're renting it, and I don't know who the renters are. I'm like, really? That's just horrible. And she's like, just go grab your package. I have your our conversation that I said that you can go do it. I'm like, okay. So I went to that house. My packages were on their front porch. And I tried ringing the doorbell, and nobody answered the door. There was a vehicle in the driveway, so I don't know if they were taking a nap. I hope I didn't wake up a kid. But, yeah, they didn't answer the door. So I basically said, hi, I'm your neighbor from around the corner. These are my packages. You're not expecting anything, I hope, and don't think that I'm trying to steal your stuff. But I posted it in the Facebook group too that said, this is what happened. So, just letting you know why it looked like somebody was trying to be a porch pirate. And I grabbed my stuff and headed home. But what I had ordered was a Ninja Creamy, which is the Ninja, I'm going to call it frozen treat maker. And yeah, I am excited to be able to try that because I have seen so many recipes from various content creators, and I was like, well, let me try this. I want to try this. I want to try this. I want to try this. I found a butterbeer ice cream recipe, and I'm like, I'm going to end up getting fat, aren't I? But the good thing is you can reduce the sugar, increase the protein, various other things to make it a little bit more healthy. And I'm using the term healthy loosely, just because healthy doesn't necessarily mean low calorie. As long as it's part of a, balanced diet and moderation, it's fine. So I might start talking about the flavors that I try each week in it. I'm just, really wondering how it takes a frozen, essentially pint of, milk and cream and takes that frozen stuff and turns it into ice cream. I'm thinking about making one during Sewing Shenanigans tomorrow, just to see what happens. And I found out my sister has one. She got it from somebody for essentially half price. And I don't know how much she's actually used it, but we started talking about various recipes that we're thinking about. And I saw a content creator I think they just got a creamy, and they're finding out, will certain things creamy? And yesterday's was Will It Creamy episode 6, I think it was. Could have been 9. And they did ranch. And I sent it to my sister before I even watched it. And then after I watched it, I was just laughing so hysterically. And I'm like, yeah, I hope she doesn't make me try to eat that when I'm up there. Ranch does not sound like something that I would want to ice cream. Now, it might be something you might want to ice cream, but, I'm not going to yuck your yum. The sad thing with this is, if I twist every single one of these seams, the judges aren't going to be able to see that I twisted every single seam. Steven asks, can it do spray cheese? Okay, how do I put this in a way that would make Liam less unhappy? Yeah. Spray cheese, you might be able to put spray cheese in ice cream. Again, I'm not going to yuck your yum. But Liam, he's called Plant Slant on YouTube. He does a lot of shorts. He gets tagged in all the recipes with cottage cheese. And way too many people try to make cottage cheese ice cream, or ice cream out of cottage cheese, or desserts out of cottage cheese, and that just sounds wrong to me. I don't like cottage cheese. I've tried it. I've even tried it again more recently when it was suggested that I should use that as, snacks. And I'm like, no, I'm just going to eat the regular cheese. Yeah, cottage cheese, gross in my opinion. Not going to yuck your yum. But yeah, I'm sure if you tried to creamy string cheese, it might. The problem is you have to put it in like a base, because it uses like the Ben and Jerry pint size cups. I think it's a little bit bigger than a pint. I'm not certain. I haven't measured. I put them in the dishwasher first because I want to make sure that they're clean. So I don't know exactly how many ounces or milliliters it is. But I do know that it will, make ice cream. It'll make sorbet. Apparently has a milkshake mode. And I understand my milkshake makes the boys lactose intolerant, but that's besides the point. So yeah, I got a couple recipes already that I want to try. And then I got a few more that I want to try. And it comes with a recipe book. One of them I want to try because, I have a whole bunch of hot chocolate in the house right now because it's been cold. I'm like, I wonder if I can make hot chocolate ice cream. So that's in the list. I got to go get milk, though. Susan says, cottage cheese is texturally offensive. Yes, it is. A coworker of mine and we were talking, and in India they have this cheese called paneer, and it's a soft cheese. And he was at an Indian restaurant, and in their menu they because there's a lot of foods that is like, okay, you can't describe certain foods in the context of others. Like, there's some stuff that you can, some you can't, and cheese is a little weird. And the restaurant described paneer as, for lack of a better phrase, Indian cottage cheese. I think that's the way that he phrased it to me. And I'm like, paneer is nowhere near Indian cottage cheese, because cottage cheese is little tiny chunks and everything. Paneer is kind of, I'll just call it tofu texture. And Steven's like, it does not have much flavor. It doesn't. That's why you got to put it in sauces. And maybe that's why they called it like cottage cheese, because I think cottage cheese, and I think they probably meant more like farmer's cheese, because we started Googling the types of cheese. And we think they might have thought more of the farmer's cheese. But yeah, I don't call paneer cottage cheese is really what we were saying with that. When I was coming back from the cruise, my Uber driver, we started talking about foods, and he's like, how do you know about palak paneer? I'm like, it's good. And then I started talking, he's like, how do you know about these foods? I'm like, I eat Indian when I can. Spray cheese milkshake, Steven says. Sounds like heaven on earth. Again, not gonna yuck your yum. If you want a spray cheese milkshake, you can have one. I don't think I want any cheese milkshake. But I have learned that I should be able to buy a can of pineapple chunks, dump it into that pint for the creamy, freeze it, and run it through the creamy machine and have pineapple sorbet. Because I love me some pineapple. This is my last column of fabrics that I got to put together. And if my speed keeps going, if I can get the rest of these laid out, I might be able to have the center of the quilt top done tomorrow during my sewing shenanigans. So as I mentioned at the very start, Sewing Shenanigans is a free Zoom that I host approximately once a month. I may have been known to do 2 in a month. I don't remember. But either way, they happen randomly. And I was like, I'm free this weekend. I've got nothing else better to do. Let's have a sew day. It is on Zoom. It is not broadcast anywhere, so don't come looking for YouTube for anybody saying, hi, we're sewing together. Nope, not sewing on YouTube. We're sewing on Zoom. And we don't care, I think Steven says that we don't care if you have your teeth in or not. You can be in your PJs. Your sewing room can be a mess. We really don't care. We just like having company while we sew and looking at what everybody else is working on if they want to share. And then, sometimes we enable people. There's been times where somebody is like, hey, have you heard about such and such pattern, such and such book, such and such anything? And we're like, I may have to purchase that. So it's a lot of fun. It's going to start at 8:30 a.m. Eastern. And then we will wrap up about 3:30 or so because I need time to get Riley out before my evening YouTube watching. And we always have a grand old time. And again, it's free. I do have a link in the description of this video, and I have a link in the description of Thursday's vlog if you want to join along. You don't have to be here at 8:30. I know that's early, especially for West Coast folks. You don't have to stay till 3:30. If you wanted to come in just for your lunch break or lunch hour, you're welcome to. If you want to just do the morning, you're welcome to. If you want to just do the evening, you're welcome to. It's whatever you would like. You can come and go as you wish during the hours of 8:30 to 3:30 Eastern. And then this one's going to go this way. This one's going to go this way. I know the rules say I should be pressing all of this fully flat at this point. Sometimes the rule books just need to go out the window. And then here. So this is what I call web piecing, where it's just a giant web of stuff because I did not cut my threads for the chain piecing that I did. And because everything is all connected, and I'm going to leave everything all connected, I can just start sewing the columns together, rows together. These are rows. And then once I get it started, I will trim the threads for the entire connection together. And I'm not a pinner, but I can easily butt up each one of these intersections. I would get more accurate if I had pinned these probably, but I'm not caring if I'm off by, half a thread. And then that goes this way. This is the bigger test of how accurate is your cutting and 1/4 inch combination. Because if everything is accurate, especially with as small as these pieces are, everything should line up or match up just perfectly. And I can show you, I can just twist, 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 and all the seams will properly twist in the center. Some of these are harder to see because it's, blacks with blacks and whites with whites. But that's going to be perfect for my project. Okay. And then I'm just going to go next row, next row, next row. And again, I'm not cutting my threads until I have lined up and gotten it started underneath the machine. Once it's in the machine, it's not going to move. And then I can cut the threads. And sometimes I'll cut just a couple at a time. Some I'll cut the entire segment. And as long as you alternated your pressing every single piece, everything will start twisting. And then I want to trim this last one. And you have to trim the threads before you can twist, because if you don't, if you leave the thread in there, it's gonna prevent your twist from happening. But you could also, depending on it, like if you decided to pin or clip all your seams, you could leave the threads connected and trim this little thread after you sew. And before you try to twist your seam. I have done that. It's a little bit more difficult. And trim. And just so everybody has a little bit of a perspective, all of these squares that I cut were 2 inches, which means they're 1.5 inch finished after you get the seams in there. And there's debate as to whether big pieces or little pieces are better for beginners. And in some cases, little pieces, as long as they're cut accurately, are better because it helps you practice a true 1/4 inch as you are learning that. But at the same time, big pieces can be more difficult, or big pieces or small pieces can be more difficult because you have to keep things accurate. When it comes to big pieces, there's a little bit of extra play, which makes them easier at times because you can potentially stretch a thread or two. But it also makes it a little bit more difficult when you have a large piece to keep it in its place. It's at that point that you're really going to have to use pins or clips or something like that just to make sure it stays in its own area. So I've got a couple rows sewn together, so you can kind of see, how small they are. The fact that I haven't pressed them, it makes it look like a hot mess. But it's going to be a hot mess until it gets properly pressed. And I just decided to start on the opposite side. The order doesn't really matter. There is a little bit of a suggestion, and I don't like to call things rules of the quilting world because it's a rule except for the people who break it intentionally because it works for them to break it. They'd say that you should go up, down when you're piecing your rows together. Because if you have a little bit of a bow in your direction, if you go in opposite directions, it'll even out your bow. I don't tend to have a bow, so I can go the same direction, or I don't want to say I can go. I haven't had an issue going the same direction for each of my rows as of yet. And of course I say as of yet because it's going to happen where I have a problem. One of my favorite stories is I was in my beginner class and I was chain piecing because I took the beginner class because I want to take the intermediate class, and the intermediate class prerequisite was beginner class. And I was like, I'm following the rules. So, and I still learned something in beginner class, so it was still worth it. And I'm chain piecing, and one of the other students is saying, what is he doing? And the instructor goes, he's chain piecing. It is great if you keep everything correct and all of that, but if you do something wrong, you're going to do it wrong, 5, 10, 20, 30 times. And I lived with that hanging over my head for a number of years until I was working on one of the graduation quilts, And I sewed like 100 and something units, all 4 pieces in the units, backwards. And I did not realize what I did wrong until I was on my way to press it. And I was like, this doesn't look right. And I probably could have left it. But I said, nope, I'm going to fix this. So I had to rip out all those pieces and then sew them back together the correct way. And I still chain pieced the correct way afterwards, but that's what gets stuck in my head is I was told, make sure you have everything laid out correctly, because if you start chain piecing and you do it wrong, you're going to do it wrong for every single seam. And I'm sure we've all done it, and if we haven't done it yet, we will. I'm going to do it again. I know that. Just like I know at some point I'm going to do a quilt and it's going to bow, because I didn't do the up and down. In this case, I am doing the up and down. Steven says, been there, done that, got the t-shirt. I haven't seen that t-shirt because you don't wear t-shirts. Let's see if I can get these last couple seams done before the live is over. I didn't even count to see how many pieces this was. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 times 7 is 54? 63. 63. So there's 63 pieces in this quilt, or in this unit. Trim, 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 trim. And some of these are a little bit less accurate of either cut or piece. But it's only by like a thread or two. So it's not a big deal. Everything is still properly nesting. Of course, the big test is, because I decided to flip and start from the other side, did all my intermediate pressings go correct and my center will press correctly? We will soon find out. It looks like I did it right. Oh, I didn't trim that one. See, you can do it without trimming it. It'll still go underneath the needle. I just won't have, I just got to remember before I press it that that one has to be, and you'll see it. If you miss trimming one of these threads, you'll see it as you put it together. And that way. All of this that I'm doing, though, it's just a lot of feeling where the seams are. Anybody can do it. A lot of people prefer pins or clips, and I am okay with them preferring that. Okay, last set. I'm going to do it this way. Okay. This time, remember to trim. And while it's in my head and I'm thinking about it, next week there will probably not be a live. My friend David is coming into town, and he wants to go shopping up north. And basically it's either a choice of I give up my live time and we go early, or I give up my afternoon commitment and we can go later. And I don't really have anything major to work on for next week. So I was like, well, I'll forego my live in the morning, and we can head up there first thing, as long as I'm back for 5 o'clock for my afternoon, because I am starting next week on Stephanie Stitch's channel, the Solar Flare quilt with the Tula Pink fabric. And I figure it's a lot easier for me to make sure I start that than to try to find something else to work on for next week. Okay, let me switch to this. And I understand. This looks like absolutely nothing. I'm trying to find the top. That's the top. Okay. But this is the block. Which I understand looks like absolutely nothing. It means absolutely nothing until you see it into the rest of the quilt. All of my back is going to be able to be twisted, so I can do that. Actually, I can start twisting these now so that when the iron is heated up, I can just do a quick pass to get all of my seams pressed and down at the same time. And that's the seam that I told you, you'll know it when you try to twist it. It's not going to twist if you forget to trim that seam. And I tried to twist that seam, and it said, computer says no. So I'm going to get my seams twisted and pressed, and hopefully start another one of these blocks today. If not, I'm going to get all of them laid out and stacked up like I prefer to do, so that tomorrow during my sewing shenanigans with everybody, I can just run them through the machine and hopefully get all of the blocks. There's 9 blocks in here, so hopefully I can get the rest of the blocks done, and then lay it out and make sure it looks exactly like it's supposed to look. Because I can't easily tell if this looks like it's supposed to look until everything is done. I can go through and compare what my printout says and make sure everything is in the right spot, but there's no checking to make sure everything really looks right until it's all done. So I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day and are able to join me tomorrow for sewing shenanigans. Look out for my blog on Thursday, to see what other shenanigans I got up to this week. And have a great day. Doodles!